Thank you so much, Patrick, and thank you to everybody at Points of Light. Janae, thank you so much for having me here this morning. It's really, truly an honor to be able to share a little bit about my story and the story of the Travis Manion Foundation. On Monday, October 29, 2007, I entered the Oval Office along with my husband and parents. I was in a bit of a daze as less than 24 hours before, I had just finished my first and last Marine Corps marathon with a torn meniscus and a broken heart. I really wasn't quite sure what I expected to come out of that meeting with President Bush. Really all that I could think about was, how do we go on from here? 6 months prior to the day, April 29, 2007, my brother, First Lieutenant Travis Manion, was killed by enemy sniper fire while on his second tour in Iraq. Travis is credited for saving every man on his patrol that day and was awarded a Silver Star and Bronze Star with Valor for his actions. I know that I should have anticipated the risk associated with his work, but I don't think that I ever did. You see, I grew up in a military family. I am the proud daughter of a Marine Corps colonel, and I remember how proudly I wore my Support Our Troops t-shirt during Operation Desert Storm. I was 10 years old at the time, and it was my first sense of feeling like I was connected to something bigger than myself. My dad did not play a large role in Desert Storm. In fact, he is often heard saying that my brother did more in 3 years of service than he did in 30 years. But 17 years after Desert Storm, I was left with a void that I initially thought would leave me unable to move forward. The day that my brother died is a blur, but I do remember screaming over and over again, "It's not fair." And in many ways, it wasn't. My brother left an indelible mark on this world in 26 short years, but I often think about how much more he would have given and done if he had had the chance. My brother Travis lived by a very specific motto. It's the motto that drives our organization. If not me, then who? After Travis's first deployment, he found out that he was going to have to go back to Iraq fairly quickly. He was being attached to a MIT team, a military transition team attached to the Iraqi army. And he came back to Philadelphia to spend some time with family and friends. He was stationed out in San Diego. And one of the things he had to do was attend a Philadelphia Eagles game. So my husband, Dave, and Travis went to an Eagles game, and my husband kept saying that it was weighing very heavily on his mind that Travis was going to be leaving again. And as they were leaving the game, they had had a great time. My husband jokingly said to Travis as they came upon a flight of stairs, "Hey, Trav, why don't you let me push you down the stairs here, and maybe you'll break your ankle and you won't have to go back to Iraq." And my husband, Dave, said that Travis looked at him and didn't say anything at first, and then said, "You know what, Dave? If I don't go back to Iraq, then somebody much less prepared for the job at hand is going to go in my place. If not me, then who?" You know what I mean? Those 5 words were what helped me to fall asleep every night after his death and helped me to wake up every morning. If not me, then who? They are the 5 words that I said thousands of times when I ran the Marine Corps Marathon. If not me, then who? They're the words I whispered to myself as I walked into the Oval Office that morning. If not me, then who? And the words I repeated when I walked out, and I realized that Travis's service to this country did not end on April 29, 2007. They would continue on through the Travis Manion Foundation. I stand here today as the president of the foundation, but I can honestly take no credit for it. This organization was started and became the organization it became because of my mom. Like all people who start an organization to help members of the community, she was lighting a small light. a light much like President Bush referenced in his inaugural address in 1989. She started the Travis Manion Foundation with a simple idea of making sure that no matter what program we ran, initiative we supported, or impact that we tried to make, we did it by honoring the fallen, by challenging the living. She knew that it did not matter where you served, it just mattered that you did. She helped to play a part in closing the civilian-military divide by having service members and civilians come together with this common goal. My mom is also a testament to the military family. The wife and mother of service members, her life was all about making sure that they were supported. Even after my brother's death and my dad's retirement, she continued to exhibit that same spirit of service until cancer took her life just a few years ago. Shortly after we started the foundation, I was asked to speak at LaSalle College High School. My brother's alma mater wanted me to come and share Travis's story. I was super nervous at the time because it was the first time that I was given the opportunity to speak to a large group about Travis. And I wanted to make sure that along with sharing Travis's story, the students walked away with how they could be servant leaders, how they could give back in their own communities. I got so nervous that I said, I can't do this by myself. So I called my friend Eric Greitens, founder of The Mission Continues. And for those in this room that know Eric, they know what a powerful speaker he is. So I called in the big guns and said, hey, you've got to help me with this. But both Eric and I believed that early on that it was important to empower veterans to continue to serve even after they were out of uniform. And I remember the few weeks leading up to that speech, I had a 25-minute speech that I had memorized. I could not go off one word or I would have lost everything. And I wanted to make sure that along with talking about Travis, I talked about other leaders. So I looked up our leaders of the past and I found this fantastic story about George Washington and his greatest acts of service. And I shared as I was preparing, I read my remarks to my dad, and my dad, like me, he didn't want to make it all about Travis, you know, and he said, man, that's really good, Ryan, and that story about George Washington, that's a good one. That's really going to hit with the kids. After Eric and I presented that day, the principal came up to me and he said, you know, I want you to know that this is a message that will transcend beyond the walls of this school. I thanked him and I asked him if he could get some feedback from the students. I wanted to know what they thought. So he called me a few days later and he said, you know, the kids loved hearing about Travis and they loved hearing Eric talk about his service. I said, okay, well, that's great. What else? There had to be something they didn't like. He said, you know, the only thing I heard was that they didn't love that story about George Washington. And that was important insight for me because that helped me to understand that this generation is just as inspired, maybe more so, by our leaders of today. And we need to look no further than our post-9/11 veterans to inspire and motivate our youth. That short presentation became our Character Does Matter program. And since that day, we've worked with veterans and families of the fallen to deliver the message and challenge over 100,000 young people over the country. Sharing their examples has generated over 30,000 hours of community service with veterans, families of the fallen, and student leaders serving side by side. But it's more than that. Through our work, veterans are saying that our programs provide purpose, camaraderie, and a sense of belonging that they have not felt since leaving active duty. Volunteering brings them back to feeling like they are part of something bigger. And though it was my brother that spoke the words, if not me, then who, each and every one of these veterans are living by that example. We have been both honored to partner with Points of Light on many of these initiatives because both organizations understand how important and crucial it is to utilize our military community to showcase how we all can serve. This is not a new concept by any means. We as a country have been privy to service members who proudly defend this nation and then return home to continue their service in different ways. And as President Bush said in his inaugural address, I've spoken of 1,000 points of light, of all the community organizations doing good that are spread like stars throughout the nation. The old ideas are new again because they are not old, they are timeless. Duty, sacrifice, commitment, and a patriotism that finds its expression in taking part and pitching in. In that way, it's up to all of us to highlight these incredible stories of service that are happening right now, so future generations can themselves be inspired to continue the great American legacy of making a difference. We each have an amazing opportunity to use the tangible act of service as our own point of light, as a way to make sure that we continue to reflect the ideals of our military community, and in doing so, build a better America for generations to come. Because if not us, then who? Thank you so much.